Disney's too woke.
We are. Look, I don't really like the term woke. We try to have a positive impact on the world.
Is Disney's obsession with woke agendas sinking the ship? Or can Bob Iger pull off a last-minute miracle? Once a sparkling fairy tale empire is now caught in a whirlwind of chaos, bad movies, angry fans, and some seriously eyebrow-raising decisions. What's really going on behind the scenes? From Muppet Babies drama to Marvel mayhem and that Snow White fiasco, the Mouse House is in meltdown mode. Let's spill the tea on the controversies that have everyone talking. Disney CEO Bob Iger appears to be grappling with challenges surrounding the Snow White live-action remake, which has reportedly become one of the most disliked trailers in cinematic history. Rumors suggest that parts of the movie are being reworked, with scenes deemed unfavorable to fans being cut. However, this effort may not be enough to salvage the project. Reports indicate that Iger is frustrated and skeptical about the production team's direction. Additionally, Disney's left-leaning policies have raised concerns among shareholders. A recent SEC filing reveals that the company has faced backlash from its own customers for pursuing a far-left social and political agenda. Given the difficulties Disney faced in 2023 and 2024, it's likely that Iger is counting down the days to 2025. Critics argue that Disney's struggles stem from altering classic stories in their live-action adaptations to align with diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) initiatives. However, this approach has faced backlash, with many claiming it alienates audiences by targeting specific demographics. By most accounts, this phase has been nothing short of disastrous for the company. Disney CEO Bob Iger seems to have spent more time extinguishing fires than leading the company forward. It wasn't just a handful of missteps. Disney faced flop after flop, turning financial losses into what feels like an art form. The timing couldn't have been worse. All of this unfolded during Disney's 100th anniversary, a milestone meant to celebrate the company's legacy. Instead, 2023 became one of the most disastrous years in Disney's history. To put the financial losses in perspective, Disney's market value dropped from $354 billion in March 2022 to $154 billion, a staggering $196 billion loss in a single year, equating to a 56% decline. And as if that weren't bad enough, the Snow White 2025 live-action remake is shaping up to be an even bigger catastrophe. Reports suggest the project has failed 5 separate test screenings. More than just a red flag, it's a glaring neon sign to abort the mission. Yet Disney continues to push forward, despite public backlash, ongoing boycotts, and behind-the-scenes drama involving stars Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. With so many issues compounding, this film seems destined to add to Disney's growing list of troubles. The problem goes far beyond Snow White. It lies in Disney's relentless push for diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, which often feels more performative than genuine. Inclusivity in principle is a positive thing and should have been embraced naturally long ago. However, Disney's approach seems to alienate longtime fans rather than foster unity. Instead of celebrating diversity, the company has turned it into a divisive issue, painting critics as villains, which only fuels resentment. Unsurprisingly, this strategy isn't winning over audiences. According to critics, you'd need to ignore common sense to find genuine appeal in this movie. Behind the scenes, Disney CEO is reportedly frustrated and panicking, scrambling to keep the company afloat. Damage control doesn't seem to be his forte. Remember when he brushed off backlash by promising to quiet the noise? That plan fell flat. And now, 8 months later, Snow White continues to spiral into chaos. Iger's solution? Double down on DEI as though it's a magical fix-all. Unfortunately for Disney, it's clear this approach isn't resonating with their audience or improving their fortunes. In a recent statement, Bob expressed frustration over the boycotts, calling them insulting and inflammatory. He claimed that critics represent a vocal minority that doesn't grasp Disney's vision for a more inclusive future. But here's the question. If that's the case, why are Disney's movies consistently underperforming? Why is Snow White facing such overwhelming backlash? Perhaps the issue isn't the audience, but the product itself. Disney's recent losses, totaling nearly $200 billion over the past year, highlight the growing disconnect between their content and their fans. The us versus them narrative being pushed isn't resonating, and audiences aren't buying it, literally or figuratively. And then there's the CGI dwarfs. The decision to replace real actors with cheap, lifeless visuals has been widely criticized as a misstep for a company with Disney's resources. It's a glaring example of taking the audience's loyalty for granted. Fans have noticed the lack of effort, and they aren't impressed. This isn't just a stumble, it feels like Disney has completely lost its footing. With this debacle, Disney has alienated the very audience that kept the Snow White lore alive since the 1930s. The studio's decisions have created a perfect storm of bad PR for the movie. The irony, Bob Iger, who's reportedly planning to retire in 2026, is trying to secure his legacy. But at this rate, his legacy might be remembered as the CEO who ran Disney into the ground. It's almost sad to watch. Almost. But then you consider the blatant missteps, tone-deaf decisions, and insistence on doubling down on failing strategies, and it's hard to feel much sympathy. The situation has reportedly become so dire that even Disney's board of directors is losing patience. Some board members have allegedly suggested skipping a theatrical release for Snow White and sending it straight to Disney+, which might actually be the smartest move they could make at this point. Sure, it wouldn't save the film from being a disaster, but it could at least mitigate the financial damage. However, Iger's ego seems to stand in the way. Determined to prove the doubters wrong, he appears willing to drag the company through the mud, potentially leaving a tarnished legacy in his wake. To unpack this, let's start with the question: is any of this Bob Iger's fault? Absolutely. Iger wasn't a bystander in setting the stage for the issues Disney faces today. He played a significant role in shaping the company's trajectory, so it's hardly surprising that his successor struggled to manage the fallout. Now that he's back at the helm, he's not facing an unfamiliar mess. He's cleaning up one of his own making. The trouble goes far beyond Snow White. This isn't just about one movie. It's about Disney's entire approach to filmmaking. Fans feel the company has completely lost touch with what made it special in the first place. Instead of focusing on timeless storytelling and beloved characters, Disney seems obsessed with pushing a woke agenda at every turn. The problem? It's not working. Audiences see right through it, and they're not buying into it, literally or figuratively. Fixing this won't be easy, but it starts with owning their mistakes. Disney needs to stop pretending everything is fine when it's clearly not. They must genuinely listen to their fans and return to creating high-quality, heartfelt content. Unfortunately, based on their track record, it seems likely they'll continue forcing their agenda on audiences while blaming them for the company's failures. At this rate, 2025 could very well mirror the disappointments of 2023 and 2024. Disney's unwavering commitment to its progressive agenda has led some investors to accuse the company of self-sabotage. The primary concern is that Disney has strayed from its family-friendly origins, thereby alienating its core audience and negatively impacting shareholder value. A notable example is a 50-page letter from Reed Rubenstein, a former Department of Justice official and current senior vice president at America First Legal, AFL. Rubenstein asserts that Disney's programming promotes anti-police and anti-white sentiments, and that this virtue signaling is backfiring. Financial data supports these concerns. Since February 2021, Disney's market capitalization has declined by nearly 40%, dropping from $341 billion to approximately $211.86 billion as of December 4, 2024. Given these developments, some shareholders are contemplating legal action against CEO Bob Iger, holding him accountable for the company's strategic direction and its financial repercussions. That's like watching a mansion shrink into a tiny fixer-upper. Rubenstein specifically criticized Disney shows that promote what he calls a woke agenda. One such show reportedly teaches kids that racism impacts me and you, and emphasizes skin color as the ultimate marker of identity. The issue isn't addressing racism, it's Disney's approach to the topic. Critics argue that instead of educating, the content leans more toward indoctrination. Then there's the infamous Muppet Babies episode. Remember Gonzo, the quirky, offbeat character? Rubenstein claims that the storyline is less about acceptance and more about pushing a specific agenda. While Gonzo has always been a wild card, this particular plot twist has raised eyebrows. Marvel hasn't escaped scrutiny either. Rubenstein's letter points to Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, which depicts police firing tear gas at peaceful protesters. According to Rubenstein, such scenes fuel controversy, portraying law enforcement negatively and alienating Disney's more conservative viewers. Critics argue that Disney is missing the point of storytelling. As one AFL representative put it, "You're here to tell the story your audience wants to hear, not force-feed them your narrative." According to AFL's executive director, Gene Hamilton, Disney needs to abandon the activist movement that's steering the brand away from its roots. Instead of delivering timeless, universally appealing stories, the company is offering content that feels more like a lecture.